All right, today we have Mike Wilson. He's a reporter for the Knoxville News Sentinel, primarily covering the University of Tennessee athletics, but was also at a very special event this weekend. Hi, Mike. How's it going?
Hey, good. Thank you guys so much for having me.
So, um,
You
so I,
survived.
you survived.
I
Congratulations.
did. I did. My clothes are dry again. It's great.
So, I'm just gonna set the scene for the people who are listening. This weekend was the setting of the Speedway Classic, which was supposed to be an MLB dual event
Mhm.
in Bristol, Tennessee, at a NASCAR racetrack. And Mike was there for all the proceedings. Can you can you tell us a little bit about how that went?
So yeah, we found out about that last year, and my bosses pretty quickly were like, "You want to cover that?" I was like, "Yes, with all of my heart and soul, I want to cover that."
Yeah.
Like that is exactly the kind of thing that I want to do. It was chaotic. I mean, the my favorite part of the coverage was leading up to it, like because
Okay.
I'm in the same boat as you are. I was fascinated by it. I'm like, how did you decide to build a baseball field here? And how did you build it? Like what led to this craziness? But the execution itself was nuts. I thought the game production management, the theme, like all that stuff was so cool. But that rain on Saturday made that whole situation a real mess in so many different ways.
So I mean, I guess my biggest, not my biggest question, because I have so many. Um, is I'm reading that this town in Tennessee has like a yearly population of about 25,000 people,
Mhm.
and 90,000 people came to this event. How does that work, essentially?
Yeah, well, Bristol, I mean, they do multiple NASCAR races a year there, and that facility holds more than 100,000 people by a long shot. I think it's 130, 140. Like it's a crazy big facility. So they're used to big events. I mean, it overpopulates like crazy a few times a year. But I think maybe one of the differences there is a lot of those times people camp. Like NASCAR has like people come in RVs, they camp on the site. This felt more like people just coming in, and I haven't done any NASCAR events there. That's just what I've heard is what that typically is like. They obviously did the Battle at Bristol football game in 2016 as well, which that was another enormous event. So Bristol Motor Speedway's kind of made itself into a big event space as well. So that was a big backdrop to this, was they're prepared to do that. But it was crazy. Like driving in, like I had this picture. I was driving in 394 highway, and there's this church on the left, and you can see Bristol Motor Speedway in the distance. And there's just people parking their cars in the lawn of that church, and people are just walking. Like there's just this stream of people walking up over this hilltop, headed down toward the racetrack. So it was chaos everywhere, just with so many different people.
So, I mean, in terms of the parking situation, I mean, I was just looking at some of the tweets where
Mm-hmm.
people are paying exorbitant amounts of money for parking. Um, was it difficult getting in? Did you notice from the beginning that okay, I'm like, th this is going to be an access problem for a lot of these fans?
Yeah, so I live in Knoxville. I'm about an hour and 45 minutes from Bristol Motor Speedway. I left at 1:30
Okay.
for the 7:15 game. It would have ended up taking me, if I had my credential and parking pass in advance, I probably would have gotten to the media parking lot in 3 hours. But I had to get to next to the speedway to get my credential, then go park, and it was chaos. I
Yeah.
mean, the traffic, the number, you got those things on big games. You can't turn left here. You didn't expect that. It reroutes you. So it was crazy. I mean, the volume of people was nuts. My parking situation wasn't too bad because again, I had a pass. I knew I was going eventually, but getting to it was hard. Getting the credential was hard. I mean, there were just people everywhere. It was cool in that way, but it definitely also was a very chaotic experience just because of that many people in such a small area.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to park at the church?
I did not, but I'll tell you this, I mulled it over.
God invented NASCAR and baseball.
Well, I'll tell you what was so funny is I drove the same route the next day on Sunday to
That's
go
right.
back to the game, and the church wasn't available for parking on
Oh
Sunday
no.
because church was going on. So like that was just that thing I noticed where I was like, yeah, yesterday there's cars everywhere, people walking over this grassy knoll, and today it's church. So like there's no
Yeah,
parking there today.
right. That's hilarious. It sounds kind of like a
Yeah.
Woodstock-esque situation where the
Yeah.
traffic was a nightmare and it rained all weekend.
And I was gonna say the rain and mud was everywhere too. So it ended up being very comparable in that way.
What do you think the crossover between, or the ratio, I should say, between like NASCAR fans and baseball fans, or did it kind of seem like all one big, crowd in that sense that they were all there for the same thing?
Yeah, I wondered that going in, like, what is that split there? But I think what it really became, like, in talking to some different people around that area, there was a big Reds presence there in the 70s, 80s, big red machine, like those early 90s Reds teams. But it's Braves territory now. Like, the Braves in the 90s with TBS and Turner and the World Series and all the things the Braves did. So you had a good crossover of genuine baseball fans and
Cool.
people who were familiar with both of those teams because, if they're a little bit older, they grew up familiar with the Reds. If they're, I'm 36, if they're my age range, they know the Braves. Like that's what you grew up on in so many ways. I think there's probably a crossover of the NASCAR element, but it did seem like it was definitely heavily like baseball people slash spectacle people, like those people who just came to say, I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which you totally get. Like it's a once in a lifetime kind of thing.
I gotta wonder if they were expecting a race to be happening congruently with the.
Hey, they drove cars around the tracks at multiple points.
Oh,
So
did they
Yeah.
really?
yeah, so there's a home run Corvette. So like
Oh,
Eli
no
went two
way. Oh, that's pretty
homers.
cool.
And so every time he homered, they drove like a white Corvette with a flag out the passenger window that said home run on it. During the rain delay, the Braves mascot Blooper like drove a little helmet shaped car just
Blooper's
around
a
the track in
menace, just
circles.
FYI.
Oh, see, that's fun. Like, I
He's a
feel like,
menace.
yeah, that's hilarious. I feel like everybody only heard about kind of like the Firefest-esque like fallout.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know anything about that kind of fun stuff that was happening.
And that's where I came back to as the event ended. And what I kind of wrote as my coverage of it was part debacle there. Like it detoured into being a debacle for a little bit. But when you came back Sunday, you saw what it was intended to be more.
Mhm.
Like they did such a good job with the fanfare on Saturday. Chipper Jones, Johnny Bench throwing out first pitches to NASCAR drivers and former NASCAR drivers. They drove the players around the track in trucks, standing in the bed of the pickup trucks with their numbers on the side. Like before player introductions, they had a pit crew like rip the tires off a Braves car and like change it out and then held flags with the numbers out for them to run out. So like
That's
the game production standpoint, like every single box was checked. Like I thought they nailed exactly what they were intending to, but the rain made it such a mess that day that not everyone got to see that when they came back Sunday.
So I mean, getting back to the rain, they had every opportunity to just not start this game because it
Mm-hmm.
seems like conditions were pretty bad. What was your read on that situation, and what did it look like, from the spectator standpoint?
Yeah, so the press box was with that temporary stand section behind home plate. So the press box was in the third base line. And it was three rows. I was in the front row. I mean, rain was coming in, so that was a bit of a mess. A couple people took like pizza boxes and basically put their laptop in them and folded the pizza box up to protect the laptop. Which some journalists are smarter than others, and that was pretty enterprising there.
Yeah.
It was tough. I live in this area. I've lived here for 9 years. It rains and sometimes it pops up heavy rain out of nowhere. It seemed like it was going to rain Saturday. I didn't understand starting the game on Saturday. It looked like there was more rain coming. So my read was maybe they have a different radar than my iPhone, which they probably did, but it didn't work out that way anyway. I cover Tennessee baseball here, University of Tennessee baseball. That's a thing all spring is like
Mhm.
getting games in, figuring out when it's going to be able to be played. They started a game against Auburn this year, played the top half of the first inning, rained out.
Right.
Like it just happens. I didn't think they should have started it. I also understand why they did, and not from anyone telling me why, but I get it. You've got that many people there. You didn't have all the infrastructure necessary for the next day. Like it's not like they had second day concessions ready to go. Uh,
Hmm.
you had to get people back for ticketing and parking the next day. All the stuff was in place for that day. So I
Yeah.
really understood trying to get it in that day, but it also seemed clear that it probably wasn't going to work out the way they hoped.
Right. And now some of the things I noticed, the Fire Festival tweet or whatever was the issue with the concessions, which it looks like they just ran out. Were you aware of that? Were fans having a good time? Like, what was the deal on that first day?
Yeah, so I didn't know about that until later that night.
Okay.
So I left Bristol Motor Speedway, drove back to Knoxville, and got a call and drive home about that, and that was going on. That the fan zone was kind of overrun was another thing I kept hearing. Just in terms of the volume of people that were around all day and the demands that were placed on the infrastructure and the concessions and everything was a lot.
Yeah.
So It sounded like that went a little bit sideways in the end. I did get a spicy chicken sandwich from the concession
Nice.
stand before the game. So I got my food in. But yeah, that was a thing that definitely came out of that, was people talking about that. Some of the sight lines of seats. Because at the end of the day, it is a spectacle. Like, you understand
Right.
some things aren't going to go perfectly according to plan. The Fire Fest stuff, I thought, like, that's a funny comp, right? Like, we've all
Oh
seen the
yeah.
documentaries and the craziness. And when things just didn't go according to plan.
Got any vegetarian options? Yeah, here's a bun.
Actually, no, it was cheeseless nachos and bunless hot dogs. That
That's
was
Yeah, I saw that
yeah,
tweet.
yeah.
Someone was telling me that there was like gluten-free mac and cheese somewhere, and like they even ran out of that. So
Oh,
like
wow.
like everything was kind of being obliterated.
Yeah.
I will say where that comp probably falls short is Firefest was just badly planned. This
right.
was
Right.
just overrun. Like
Right.
this just became bigger than I think it was expected to be in some small ways, because it is hard. Like, I can't imagine the logistics that go into all of this and how hard that would have been. So
Yeah.
it was interesting that night. I mean, 2 hours and 17 minutes delay. You start a game, starts raining again, call it. I mean, it was crazy. But maybe the moments that stick with me on the positive side,
Hmm.
that roar of like 90,000 people when the ground crew came out to take the tarp off, that
Yeah.
was crazy. And like Chase Burns' first pitch, same thing. The noise from the fans on that first pitch, you're like, okay, yeah, like that's what this was intended to be. It was so crazy. And it's a bummer it didn't all play out that way, but you got a glimpse of that there, of like how unique and special the overall event was.
Yeah, and it also makes you think, I mean, like the idea of baseball expanding into Tennessee, Major League
Mm-hmm.
Baseball expanding into Tennessee would actually be very, very cool if that could happen in Nashville or in that area, because it looks like it has the fan base to actually support it.
Yeah, I mean, that's been such a storyline for such the past few years, is that Nashville group trying to get MLB there. And you see it. Yeah, like what you're saying, you saw the popularity, the people coming out. Like I kind of said earlier, there was definitely a faction of people who came for the spectacle, but you also saw baseball fans.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously more Reds and Braves, but you just saw people coming out to be part of this. And it was pretty dang cool to see overall, I thought.
Is there
So
not a St. Louis Cardinals presence in
There
Tennessee
is.
or
So Tennessee is aggressively wide for what it's worth. It takes 6-ish hours to drive from Knoxville to Memphis, and Memphis has a good Cardinals presence.
thank
Um,
you.
yeah, you're getting more that way. I think
Yeah.
they have the AAA team there for the Cardinals,
Yeah, yeah,
so
Memphis Redbirds. Yeah,
there's
yeah.
yeah, there's definitely a presence there for the St. Louis Cardinals. But yeah, there's Cardinals fans in Knoxville too. I mean, they spread, but I would say West Tennessee definitely has more of that.
Yeah, it makes
fascinating.
sense given the geography. But
Mhm.
I'm curious about what next spectacle MLB is going to try. Perhaps at some baseball on ice.
Baseball,
The NHL goes to baseball stadiums. You got to wonder if they'll flip flop it. Yeah, I think it'd be great if Nashville or some big Memphis even got a major league team, because right now we're looking at. Uh, the A's going to Vegas, and
Mhm.
everything you see about the reports of that city is like it's not the draw that it used to be, and maybe that's a byproduct of gambling being available on your phone, that you don't have to go to Vegas anymore.
Mhm.
So it would behoove MLB, in my opinion, to expand a team to a city that is very densely populated and has the infrastructure to uphold, and it isn't just like a travel through city. It's lived in. I think that'd be
just build a
awesome.
roof.
What's
For
that?
God's sakes, just
Oh
build
yeah,
a
build it.
roof.
Yeah. Retractable roof.
Retractable roof. Um, yeah, no, I 100% agree. And plus, I would love to go to Nashville more often. Some of my best memories are leaving games there when I was covering like the NCAA tournament and just being serenaded by people on bachelorette trips um, on those little like trolleys where they're just
Yeah,
drinking beer.
the like pink party bus things.
Yeah,
Yep. The pedal trolleys and all that stuff. Yep.
I
Yeah, it's
got
a great sports city. It's a great sports city.
I had like 12 drunk women serenade me with like Wannabe from Spice Girls, and it was one of the best
Nice.
moments of my life.
Yeah.
So I mean, okay, so you do all that, you go back home, you have to come back the next day.
Hmm.
Situation is better, I'm assuming at this point. What was that Sunday like?
Yeah. So it's also funny because I was trying to make logistics plans for me. I threw an overnight bag in my car
Oh,
before I left, just in case. Like, if the game got late, figure
Break
something
glass
out.
in case of emergency. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, like just have that just in case. So my best friend's dad lives in the Tri-Cities area by Bristol, and I was like, maybe I'm crashing at his house tonight. Ended up driving back to Knoxville and driving back in the morning, and it was different. Like it was very easy to get in. I mean, also was earlier in the morning. It wasn't the all day party situation that the day before was. I don't know the number of people that came back because obviously they announced the paid attendance. It was definitely more subdued, but you
Mhm.
saw it be what it was supposed to be to an extent. Like you saw a well played baseball game. You saw enough people come back that it was still a really good environment. Again, I said it earlier, the game production standpoint was good. I mean, the things they used the big scoreboard Colossus for to get fans engaged. I thought one of the funny things they did, they had a Braves and a Reds fan compete in a home run derby on the steepest embankment of the track. So like trying to hit it like up and over the catch fence,
Yeah.
which looked really hard, honestly. Like that launch angle was not easy for people to achieve. So you saw the fun, you saw the planning, you saw the preparation, and it really became a good baseball game and a well planned in-game entertainment element. So I thought it ended up being pretty cool once we got back there for that Sunday element of it all.
Nice. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
I can imagine just being kind of a fan who's starved for in-person Major League Baseball and kind of having that experience. So you were talking about the fan experience being a lot better the second day. Were they able to restock concessions? Was everything like kind of like available for the people there?
So I didn't go back down, but I was able to see from the press box to like I think it was called the pit stop was like the area where there was a concert the day before, and the concessions were there were definitely concessions being sold there. But Bristol also announced late Saturday like fans can bring in their own food
Oh,
in like
nice.
a clear plastic bag of this size, which someone told me is not dissimilar from what they do for NASCAR races.
Hmm.
So there was food options. It wasn't necessarily concessions as much as it was, hey, come on in, bring non-alcoholic beverages and whatever foods you want, and make it happen. So they found a way because again, when you're planning that, you obviously weren't expecting to run out of concessions on the first day. You
Hmm.
definitely didn't have enough for day two. Just that logistical element of that all.
So I mean, and one of the interesting things for me is the post game, just Terry Francona talking about kind of like the difficulty of playing this game, burning your bullpen arms over the
Yeah.
course of 2 days, and the fact that the Reds are in a essentially a stretch run for the first 162 game season since 2013. They have not made the playoffs since that long. In terms of just the vibe among players, among management, did you notice that there was any sort of like, I don't know, kind of annoyance at the situation?
I would imagine if there was, it came from the Reds because, as you're saying, like I mean, they started Chase Burns,
Yeah.
and he was off to a good first inning there. So you burned a starter on Saturday, and as you're saying, they're in the playoff hunt. They flew up to Chicago from Bristol to play the Cubs. Like, so you're in the middle of this all, so that hurt. Like from
Yeah.
a competitive advantage and a game importance standpoint, it hurt the Reds the way that unfolded. And the Braves won a trophy, which is the only trophy they're going to win this season. So like they got something out of it too. But hey, listen,
The prestigious,
what's that?
the
Prestige.
prestigious,
Yeah.
coveted.
So people, you see the jokes. People will tell their kids this was the 2025 World Series trophy. The Braves celebrated it in Bristol, Tennessee. Um, but yeah, I mean, the way the game unfolded helped the Braves, and it might have hurt the Reds in the long run. Like if they finish a game back for playoff spot now, you can point back to this game and be like, if that whole thing went differently,
Hmm.
maybe the Reds are in the playoffs. So yeah, I don't know if I got the frustration because they only rolled a few people to the media room,
Okay.
but I wouldn't blame there for being some frustration on how that all went down.
Yeah. I still remember the Reds being eliminated from going into the playoffs with the one game playing with
Mhm.
against the Mets, the game that Al Leiter pitched. I think like 9 innings, like with the ridiculous pitch count that they don't allow pitchers to even touch anymore. We have been seeing in recent years the importance of the one game, as cliche as it is. So if I'm the Reds, I absolutely understand being annoyed at this particular situation.
Yes. Yeah, and building it too, like that's what kind of boggled my mind. And obviously, I work in college athletics as a reporter, so we get FOIAs, we can find the financials, we can get all that. I wanted to know what Bristol cost. Like, how much did it
Seriously.
cost Major League Baseball to put that game on? I mean, the transportation of field supplies, gravel, clay, turf, the construction elements. I mean, they had to rip out half a building on the infield and some pit walls to build that field the way they did. Like, what
Jeez.
did it cost to do all of
Yeah.
this? Because it's a big spectacle to put on for one game. And obviously Major League Baseball's honed in on that with Field of Dreams, London, Sydney, Fort Bragg, the game in Alabama last year at the Rickwood Field. They've done this so well.
Going to the moon next.
Yeah, but I mean, but this one's different, right? Like Rickwood Field already has a field. Field of Dreams has a field.
Right.
Right.
The Sydney, the games in London, there's already an athletic surface down. So that's where this one was just so crazy to me of you're building from scratch a facility, and for one game, which ended up being pretty crazy for that one.
Do you have a grasp on the timeline in terms of how long it took them to put this all together?
So the process started in 2022 in terms of discussions, meetings, and all of that.
Yeah.
Construction really hit ahead in June, because I was out there late June, and at that point they had the gravel down, had leveled the surface, had ripped out a section of pit wall, kind of where left field and the bullpen were. And there's a building that was behind center field, the Goodyear building, that they had to tear half out and then rebuilding that. So that all happened early June. Then I think it was handed off from Bristol at that point to Major League Baseball and Brightview, and Populous, I believe, is the other company involved there. So they then put that together from there. So it was done, I guess, in about a 2 to 2.5 month window. And now what's crazy is there's a NASCAR race there in early
I
September.
was gonna ask. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all. Like by the time I left the stadium the other night, the outfield wall was largely torn down. I mean, they were already ripping down as much as they could. The concert stage from the day before was half gone. I mean, it's now they got to get it all out, right? Like you have to
Yeah.
remove all the gravel, all the clay, all that stuff. So it was a big deal to build, but now it's a big deal to remove as well.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that kind of like where I'm on the fence with some of these dual events in terms of, what are the ramifications and just in terms of the environment of like putting all of this infrastructure up and then just completely tearing it down and like the age of consumption kind of like I don't know. I'm very, very torn and I don't know how much money baseball is actually making with regard to how much they're spending in
Well, they
doing
sold
all
out of concessions, so they made money there.
they did until they
that, that,
sold out.
that's a thing. Yeah, I texted a friend during the game because as the rain delays were happening, they're like, "What do you think of all this?" And I said, "This is incredible." I said, "But to an extent, you also come to that quote of just because you can doesn't mean you should."
Right.
Um, and I think so many of these events are incredible. I thought this event was incredible, but that was a lot different in terms of having to build a facility than what baseball has done in some of those past events.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I talked to one of the MLB Global guys for 30 minutes in June for a story on how they did this all, because I think it's fascinating. Just
Yeah.
the decision to do it there, the process of figuring out you can build a field, the commitment to doing it, the getting the supplies, like everything to do with this was a spectacle in and of itself, even before the game was played. So it was a feat to do what they did. It was fascinating to be a part of and to see. But I'm with you, Cole, as you said earlier. I really want to know what they do next, because it sounds like they're doing these studies 3 years out in terms of what they can actually do next. So there's already some stuff down the pipeline of what's going to come next from this.
We're going to Canada.
Montreal, bring it back.
Let's bring baseball to Montreal, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Bringing the Expos back for one game only. Mike, thank you so much for your time. Where can we read these fascinating stories that we get from you?
Yeah, so I'm at the Knoxville News Sentinel. Our website's knoxnews.com. Then I'm on Twitter at by Mike Wilson, and we had a blast with this stuff. Had a good Knoxville story on it because MLB also had to call a Knoxville supplier on Saturday night to get some extra infield conditioner up there for the game on Sunday as well, because they also got low on that. So
Oh my God.
Wow.
there were some stories out of this that ended up being pretty cool.
Awesome. Yeah, everybody go read his stuff, give him a follow. Anything in the fall you're excited about coming up here?
Yeah, so I'm primarily basketball, baseball at the Knoxville News Sentinel, but definitely help on Tennessee football because
Word.
Lord knows it's the biggest ticket in town.
Yeah.
Always will be. So yeah, ready to get back to kind of the normal grind of things after taking a 2-week detour into MLB events for a moment there.
That's
I like that we did all this and we didn't even mention the one pitcher from the Reds that had to fly to and from triple A pitcher. Apparently they sent him back to triple A and then hit the fly back on
Yep.
a
Oh, wow.
private Rob Manfred's
Yeah, I saw that
plane.
report that it was like on the commissioner's private plane. Like the Braves got Herson Waldrop up from AAA. Like he said he was in bed already and got a call at like 11 saying, "Hey, we need you up here." And they sent a car service at like 4:30 in the morning to bring him up to Bristol. And then he threw his best start in his 3 in the MLB. Like
Wow.
Yeah, the whole situation just absolutely nuts. And again, the final taste in the mouth, I thought was just what a cool experience.
Yeah.
How cool, great game, good crowd, good experience. You can't predict rain, and that was the one dampen on the whole thing, I thought.
Yeah. And also, again, just because you can, maybe doesn't always mean you should.
Amen.
What do you mean? I want baseball and NASCAR in the same location.
Mike, thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you,
the time.
Mike.
We so appreciate that. This was
For
awesome.
sure. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Had a blast.
All right.
Appreciate it.